What's going on, everybody? I'm going to tell you why Breece Hall is absolutely, positively a fantasy football league winner in 2024. Let's start with the New York Jets. And the New York Jets finally seem to be doing things right. This offseason, they emphasize one of their biggest issues, and probably the biggest issue why Aaron Rodgers missed the entire season last year, their offensive line. If you take a look at some of the moves the New York Football Jets have made, they drastically upgraded that unit, bringing in guys like Morgan Moses, bringing in guys like Tyron Smith. Now, they're both a little bit older. They could miss some time, but for the most part, this is going to be the best offensive line the Jets have had in years. That not only helps Aaron Rodgers stay on the field, it opens up more running lanes for Breece Hall. Furthermore, if Aaron Rodgers is on the field and playing well, the enemy defense can no longer focus on shutting down Breece Hall like they did a lot last year, which means Breece Hall, who already had a pretty damn good season, could really be unlocked. Now, from a fantasy football perspective, Breece Hall played in 17 games. A little bit of a rough start, but once he popped, he was borderline unstoppable. Of those 17 games, all but 4, he had at least 10 PPR points. From week 5 on, so from week 5 to week 18, he had double-digit PPR points in all but one game. And if you had Breece Hall in a fantasy playoffs, weeks 14 to 18, he went ballistic. In weeks 14, 26.6. Now, week 15 put up a dud of 2.8. And then 16, 17, 18, 43.1, 27.6, and 27 PPR points. So Breece Hall came through when it mattered most. If you take a look at some of his efficiency metrics, well, he was a number 2 PPR running back overall, but the RB6 in fantasy points per game. Didn't even get 1,000 yards rushing. He fell 6 yards short with 994. He did most of his damage as a receiver, 76 for 591 with 9 total touchdowns, but still managed 4.5 yards per carry behind that atrocious offensive line. As a matter of fact, he only had 33 red zone touches. Most of the time, if you're a top running back, you're dominating red zone touches. He couldn't because the Jets were not in the red zone often. Just think what this Jets offense is going to do with a healthy Aaron Rodgers. And even if you want to tell me, okay, well, Aaron's old, anything can happen. The Jets were smart. They brought in Tyrod Taylor, who is one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league. So if Aaron Rodgers was to miss time, it's not like they're stuck with Tim Boyle or Zach Wilson. They have a competent backup quarterback who can absolutely positively manage an offense. He was the number 1 back in targets. Now, I do expect that to possibly regress with Aaron Rodgers, right? Captain check down Tim Boyle and Captain check down Zach Wilson are no longer there. But that doesn't mean we have to fade Breece, worry about Breece, because he's going to make it up elsewhere. The number 2 back in weighted opportunities, the number 12 back in opportunity share, that could go higher because this Jets offense is going to be on the football field more often if this offense plays like I think it should. Now, yards per carry wasn't great, 4.5 and 3.9 true yards per carry, but yards per touch, number 11. He was explosive as a receiver out of the backfield. When it comes to Breece in open space, because the issue wasn't getting into open, it was getting into open space, not what he could do in that space, right? The offensive line struggled to open up those holes. Why? Well, he saw a lot of stacked fronts because there was no semblance of a passing attack, which is, again, that's not going to be there this year. So in terms of Breece at the second level and beyond, and Breece in open space, he was 5th in juke rate, number 1 in evaded tackles, 11th in breakaway runs, 3rd in yards created, 10th in yards created per touch. This guy did it all by himself. And now we inject a little bit of help into that body. We inject that offensive line and competent quarterback play. The sky is the limit for Breece Hall. Where is Breece Hall going in fantasy drafts? Well, we know Christian McCaffrey, probably the number 1 or 2 player off the board. Right now at underdog, it's CMC, then CD Lamb. If you go to the FFPC and high stakes, it's CD Lamb, then CMC. I believe we are getting CMC type ceiling with Breece Hall. And at underdog, Breece is going as the 6th player off the board. At the FFPC, Breece is going as the 6th player off the board. So you don't have to worry about, well, I don't have the 1st or 2nd pick. I'm not going to get Breece Hall. You don't necessarily need it. Breece could go. Now, his ADP 6 to 8. People could also fade Breece Hall. Be like, you know what? I don't want any part of this Jets offense. And you might be able to get Breece Hall in the back of the 1st round. That'll come few and far between, but it could happen. So there's a lot of different ranges of outcomes that are positive, because let's get the negatives out of the way. At worst, we know what Breece Hall can do with Zach Wilson and the worst possible offensive line and offensive situation you can have, right? At worst, what did I tell you? Breece was the RB2 in PPR and RB6 in fantasy points per game. That's the bad. The good, like I said, the good of Breece Hall is that he breaks fantasy football. The good of Breece Hall is that he's a fantasy football league winner that you can get in the middle of the 1st round. I'm Anthony Servino. This is the Faceoff Sports Network. We'll catch you later.